scoreless on the road. A shocking road loss to the Magic. We're going to break that down in just a little bit. Plus, the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic, makes history yet again last night. I mean, what else is new? The fourth quarter highlight that you need to see from the Joker. Don't miss that. Of course, we will start today's show with the latest from Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. Last night's apology, Kevin Durant's reaction right now on NBA Today. Welcome to NBA Today. I'm Malika Andrews. And on Thursday night, the Nets announced that Kyrie is, quote, unfit to be associated with the Nets and is suspended without pay for no less than 5 games for his, quote, refusal to disavow anti-Semitism. And 4 hours after the suspension was announced, Irving issued a statement on Instagram saying in part, quote, to all the Jewish families and communities that are hurt and affected from my post, I am deeply sorry to have caused you pain and I apologize. You can see his full statement here on your screen. And here is General Manager Sean Marks and Kevin Durant at Shoot-Around this morning.
The organization has made multiple attempts to get with Kyrie and his representation and to have them clarify his feelings and put out a sense of remorse for this. And that obviously didn't happen, and he refused to disavow that until his tweet last night. So I think this was the best course of action as it stands right now is to suspend him, because they're not the values of our organization right now. There is going to be some remedial steps and measures that have been put in place for him to obviously seek some counseling, designated by the team from dealing with some anti-hate and some Jewish leaders within our community. He's going to have to sit down with them. He's going to have to sit down with the organization after this, and we'll evaluate and see if this is the right opportunity to bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way of the NBA now. There's so many outlets now, and that stories hit pretty fast now. So that's where all the chaos is coming from. Everybody's opinions. Everybody has an opinion on the situation. We're hearing it nonstop. I ain't here to judge nobody or talk down on nobody for how they feel or their views or anything. I just didn't like anything that went on. I feel like it was all unnecessary. I felt like we could have just kept playing basketball and kept quiet as an organization. I just don't like none of it.
Soon after those comments, Kevin Durant tweeted, I just want to clarify the statements I made at Shoot-Around. I see some people are confused. I don't condone hate speech or anti-Semitism. I'm about spreading love always. Our game unites people, and I want to make sure that's at the forefront. Joining us now is senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. And Woj, moments ago, you and Ramona Shelburne dropped a story that details really the last couple of days for the Brooklyn Nets. Let's start here. What conditions of reinstatement has been laid out for Kyrie Irving here?
Well, I think Sean Marks described some of them this morning at Shoot-Around, including a meeting with leaders of the Jewish community around Brooklyn. I think some essentially, and you saw kind of the term they used, objective remedial look at just hate speech. And there's going to have to be steps Kyrie Irving takes to be able to return to the Nets. And they'll look at it after the 5 games and see if he's made, in their estimation, a sincere attempt to rectify this situation and to gain a deeper and perhaps a more sincere understanding of the hurt he caused in the last week by his refusal to A, apologize, and B, condemn the material that was in the film on the platform that he shared on his platform.
So what about the communication between Kyrie Irving and the Nets franchise? What does that look like, and why is it important?
Well, you go back through the past week, and in the reporting Ramona Shelburne and I did in our story that's just up on ESPN.com, it was very minimal between Kyrie Irving and owner Joe Tsai, the American Defamation League, that Joe Tsai had brought in to help, in his view, educate Kyrie Irving on why what he shared was so hurtful, the impact it has on the Jewish community, and anti-Semitism and regionally and certainly across this country. And most of that dialogue, if not virtually all, we were told, was with his agent. And so that Kyrie Irving and the Nets really discussed this between his agent and not so much with the ADL, with Joe Tsai. And that was a big part of our reporting, that I think the reason it took until last night to see the kind of not just the suspension, but the strong statement that the Nets issued was because Joe Tsai had really been out there over the past week, determined to try to educate Kyrie Irving, to try to get him to understand why this was such an important issue, whereas there were others in his orbit, from the commissioner's office to his front office, his own front office, that wanted to see a more punitive approach, especially after Saturday night when Kyrie Irving had a chance in that first news conference to disavow the material on his platform, and not only did not do that, but he actually ramped it up.
Woj, I'm reading the story that you and Ramona, you're reporting on ESPN.com right now. And in it, it says that part of what needs to happen for Kyrie Irving is an apology for supporting the film and the falsehoods within it, and training sessions, you're reporting, on the dangers of hate speech, sources said. And there would also need to be meetings with Brooklyn Jewish leaders. So we've seen that first step, the apology, which Sean Marks acknowledged is a good first one to take. But is it a guarantee that we're going to see Kyrie Irving back in a Nets uniform?
I think the one thing we've learned over the last few years, there are no guarantees in Brooklyn. There are no guarantees with Kyrie Irving and this circumstance in Brooklyn. And no, it is not a guarantee that he'll be back. I think he's going to have to fulfill these requirements, and he's going to have to find a way to be welcomed back into this Nets team. And certainly think the statement last night that Kyrie Irving released after he was suspended, the furthest he's gone with an apology. I think if he had done that at any point in the previous 6 or 7 days, he probably would have avoided a suspension. So certainly I think that statement last night spoke to the fact that Kyrie Irving knows he has to do more to make this situation right, or make it as right as it can be. But certainly there are no guarantees on his future or what his role is moving forward in Brooklyn.
Woj, thank you so much. I encourage everyone to go and check out this article and the reporting in it. Please do not go too far. I do want to bring in our panel here, though, to start to get some thoughts on what we've been hearing from Adrian Wojnarowski, as well as what he's reporting in this article. I'd like to bring in Zach Lowe into this conversation. Zach, I'm curious, what are your thoughts here?
I mean, it's all over the place. There's a human story where certain sentiments are just beyond the pale of acceptability, and Kyrie Irving's refusal to disavow those sentiments day after day after day, as reported in Adrian and Ramona's story, ignoring text message from the Nets governor, Joe Tsai. On a human level, it's just not okay. It's not acceptable. It's sad, and it has caused enormous pain for lots of people. Then there's a basketball story that we're a basketball show. The Nets are a basketball team, and we're obligated to talk about that too. And that story to me is, this feels like the end for this iteration of the Brooklyn Nets. It feels unsalvageable. I don't see, no matter who they hire as coach, no matter when Ben Simmons comes back, no matter if Kyrie Irving comes back at all, I just don't see how this is salvageable in terms of cobbling a championship contender out of the ruins of this. Even saying the word championship around what's going on with this franchise now, contender, it just feels ridiculous. And that just brings you to the next domino that will fall, which is, it just feels inevitable that other teams are going to start calling the Nets about Kevin Durant. And if this really is the end for the Nets, their only move left, the only way to restock the cupboard of draft picks and young players, the only quiver they have left, the only arrow in the quiver, rather, is trading Kevin Durant, whether it's 2 months from now, 6 months from now, 4 months, whatever it is. It just feels like we're headed there again, just as we were there over the summer when Kevin Durant requested a trade. And even though that feels like 5 years ago, it was not that long ago.
Yeah, I do agree with some of your points, Zach. I do feel like in the big scheme of things, the long term of things, this might feel like the end, especially when you think about where this team was a couple years ago with their aspirations to win a championship. I do think that Kyrie releasing a statement so soon after we heard that he's going to have to serve at least a 5-game suspension shows that he's probably aware that he still has a willingness to want to play basketball. That's why we got it so soon. But I do think that also it's the beginning for a new day where finally the Nets overall, because when we talk about sports and when we talk about championship culture, you have to protect that at all costs. It's the beginning because finally we see a standard. I always go back to where I was in middle school, and we actually had multiple speakers that came from the Anti-Defamation League to educate us on all different versions of hate. And the idea was that they always said there's no place for hate. And I think through this statement in which the Nets said he must satisfy objective remedial measures that address the harmful impact of his conduct, and the suspension period served is less than no more than 5 games, or no less than 5 games. There you're seeing a standard finally, because for so long we've been waiting. All right, where does this go? Who's holding him accountable? Finally, you see within the culture of sports a standard saying, look, we're no place for hate, and given this circumstance, this is how we're moving forward. It creates a pathway for Kyrie to be back, but in the big scheme of things, you finally see something in the Nets or even NBA saying we don't stand for this, and this is how we hold our teams to this standard.
And I think reality also hit Kyrie in the face. Like, oh, this is real, and they're doing something about it. Like you said, the standard is being set, and you're welcome to have freedom of speech, but there's consequences sometimes that come with that, and you have to be aware of that. And I think him wanting to have his freedom of speech, I have no problem with that. But like I said, you have to be willing to deal with the other side of it. And I think someone is in his ear made him aware of, hey, look at the other side about it. That could be your family. Or, somebody talking about you, how would you feel about that?
Or basketball might go away.
Correct. And that's what I think he's starting to see, the reality that basketball, this could be it. You have to find a team that's going to want to deal with that. And that might not be the case for him. So I just hope this helps him 5 games away, kind of gets him to take a step back a little bit and say, hey, what am I doing? What's more important to me and my family right now? And then move forward.
Zach mentioned Kevin Durant. I'd like to bring Adrian Wojnarowski back into this conversation to ask that. I'm curious here, Woj, what are you hearing about how, if at all, this whole situation affects the future of Kevin Durant in Brooklyn?
Yeah, listen, I don't think Kevin Durant is at a point now where he's, I think in the short term, going